If you look at what is happening between Washington and Ottawa right now, it does not look like diplomacy. It looks like a breakup, a messy, expensive, dangerous breakup. For 70 years, the border between Canada and the United States was the longest undefended line in the world. It was the backbone of the global economy. It was the one thing you could always count on until this morning. Because just a few hours ago, the unthinkable happened. The cameras were waiting in the Rose Garden. The podiums were set. The pens were ready. Donald Trump was ready to announce his victory, ready to tell the world that Canada had bent the knee. But the other podium stayed empty. Mark Carney didn't show up. He didn't sign the paper. He didn't offer a counter-proposal. Instead, he got on a plane, flew back to Ottawa, and issued a statement that is going to change the price of the car in your driveway, the food in your fridge, and the future of your job. Trump tried to corner Canada. He thought he had all the leverage. Carney didn't blink. And now the consequences are spreading faster than anyone in the White House can stop them. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what happened inside that negotiation room, why the USMCA is effectively dead, and why this might be the biggest mistake of Donald Trump's presidency. You need to understand the scale of what just happened. This wasn't a minor dispute over milk or lumber. This was the 6-year mandatory review of the USMCA, the massive trade deal that replaced NAFTA. It governs $700 billion in trade. It keeps auto factories running in Michigan and Ontario. It keeps energy flowing to New York. It keeps food on shelves in California. Every economist in the world said this review would be routine. They said the economies are too integrated to fail. They said Trump would bluster, but eventually he would sign. They were wrong. According to leaks directly from the negotiation team, Trump walked into the final meeting yesterday with a new demand. He didn't just want better terms. He wanted a sunset clause that would allow the US to cancel the deal unilaterally every single year. Basically, he wanted to hold a gun to Canada's head every January. He wanted to turn Canada from a partner into a vassal state. He gave Prime Minister Carney an ultimatum. Sign this by noon, or I hit every Canadian product with a universal 25% tariff starting Monday. Trump treats nations like contractors he can bully. He treats alliances like real estate deals, where there is always a winner and a loser. But Mark Carney isn't a contractor. He's a central banker. He's a strategist. And he knows something Trump forgot. You cannot bully the person who supplies your energy and builds your tanks. Carney's response wasn't a tweet. It wasn't a shout. It was silence. He packed his delegation. He left the White House, and at 10 p.m., his office released a simple notification to the U.S. State Department. Canada is formally withdrawing from the review process. The deal is not renewed. The framework that held North America together is collapsing in real time. And the shock you are seeing on the news, that is the sound of Washington realizing they pushed too hard, and the one ally they need just walked away. You might be thinking, this is just politics. They'll fix it next week. I need you to look at the evidence. This isn't posturing. This is a rupture. I'm going to show you 3 specific receipts that prove this relationship is broken. First, look at the timeline of the leaked document. We have obtained a copy of the red line memo that the Trump team slid across the table. It's dated 3 days ago. In it, the US demands total access to Canada's Arctic waters and a dismantling of Canada's dairy supply management within 30 days. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a demand for surrender. Look at the bottom of page 4. Trump's team explicitly wrote that if Canada refused, the US would invoke Section 232, National Security Grounds, to block Canadian aluminum. This proves that Trump was never planning to renew the deal. He was planning to break Canada. He thought Carney would be too scared of the economic hit to resist. Second, look at the markets. Usually, when there is trade tension, the Canadian dollar crashes. Investors flee to the safety of the US dollar. That didn't happen today. Look at the chart on your screen. The Canadian dollar actually ticked up. Why? Because global investors are betting against Trump. They see Carney's move as a sign of strength. They know Canada has spent the last 2 years signing critical mineral deals with Germany, Japan, and South Korea. The markets are saying that Canada has options, and they are saying the US is becoming unstable. When Wall Street trusts Ottawa more than Washington, the world has flipped upside down. Third, and this is the most dangerous one, look at the ports. We are already seeing reports from the Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Windsor. This is the busiest trade crossing in North America. Trucks are stopping. Customs agents on the US side have reportedly received orders to inspect every single cargo for compliance. That is code for a blockade. Trump is trying to squeeze the border immediately to force Carney back to the table. But look at the Canadian side. They aren't scrambling. They are diverting. We have footage of trains in Vancouver and Montreal being prioritized for European and Asian shipments. It looks like Carney prepared for this. While Trump is trying to close the door, Canada is opening windows to the rest of the world. These aren't the actions of a country that is panicking. These are the actions of a country that is executing a Plan B. And that is what should scare every American viewer watching this. Because if Canada has a Plan B, that means they don't need the US as much as Trump thinks they do. So why is this happening? Why would Trump blow up a $700 billion relationship? It comes down to control. Donald Trump operates on a very simple, outdated model. He believes that because the US economy is bigger, he always wins. He believes that pain is a one-way street. If he puts tariffs on you, you suffer, and he wins. But the world has changed since 2016, and Trump hasn't caught up. He is losing control because he doesn't understand supply chains. Let's take the auto industry. A single car part crosses the US-Canada border 7 times before the car is finished. 7 times. If you put a tariff on that part, or if you slow it down at the border, you don't just hurt Canada. You shut down assembly lines in Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Trump thinks he is punishing Carney, but right now, auto executives in Detroit are blowing up the phones in the White House. They are telling Trump that if this USMCA collapse lasts for a week, they will have to lay off 50,000 American workers. He is trapped by his own aggression. If he backs down now, he looks weak. He looks like Carney defeated him. If he doubles down and closes the border, he crashes the US economy. You can see the panic in his latest tweets. An hour ago, he tweeted, "Canada is treating us very badly, very unfair. We will charge them big tariffs." That is not the sound of a master negotiator. That is the sound of a man who just realized he pulled the pin on a grenade and forgot to throw it. He is also losing control of the narrative. For years, Trump could say, "America first," and his base would cheer. But America first doesn't work when gas prices spike, because Canadian crude oil gets taxed. Canada supplies more than half of the oil the US imports, heavy, crude, the stuff US refineries rely on. If Carney decides to play hardball, if he decides to restrict pipeline flows or add an export tax, the price of gas in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin goes up overnight. Trump is fighting a trade war from the 1980s. He thinks it's about steel and lumber. He doesn't realize he is fighting a war against the country that powers his grid and fuels his cars. He escalates with threats. The world responds with math, and the math is not on Trump's side. Now look at Mark Carney. This is the contrast that matters. If Justin Trudeau was still in charge, we might be seeing an apology tour. We might be seeing emotional speeches about friendship. Carney is different. He is a former central banker. He ran the Bank of England. He ran the Bank of Canada. He sits in rooms with the people who actually own the world's debt. He doesn't fight like Trump. He doesn't yell. He calculates. Carney's strategy is what experts call strategic decoupling. He knew Trump would eventually do this. He knew the US was becoming an unreliable partner. So for the last 2 years, he has been quietly building a fortress. He didn't just say no to Trump today. He said no because he had a safety net ready. Notice what Carney did last month. He signed a massive critical mineral security pact with the European Union. He secured long-term energy contracts with Japan. He is pivoting Canada away from being a US dependent and turning it into a global energy superpower. Carney understands something Trump does not. Scarcity creates power. The world is starving for uranium, potash, fresh water, and rare earth metals. Canada has all of them. The US needs them. By walking away from the table, Carney is sending a message to the global markets. We are open for business, but the price just went up. He is using the systems that Trump hates, alliances, international law, and global markets to box Trump in. It is a high-stakes gamble. It is incredibly risky. If the US border closes,